and welcome everyone to a new episode of the Campaign Countdown. We've been gone for a minute, but we're back here with one of our awesome creators, and we're counting down the days till the campaign launch. We have with us Matt Trin, comic creator of MacKinnon Chronicles, as well as a number of other comics with us. As always, I'm one of your co-hosts, Michael, joined by co-host Matt here.
How's it going, everybody?
And without further ado, welcome Matt Trin to the Wicked Studios. How are you doing today?
I am doing good, in spite of the cold, rainy weather.
Oh, geez. That sounds rather dreary there. Well, thank you for taking time to speak with us. We're really excited to talk to you about your comic.
Yeah.
And so this series is one that's been a long time in the making. It's one as I've been anticipating for a long time, and I know, and Matt B here, I know you have as well. And it's one that revolves around Captain Maisie MacKinnon. She's a space captain on a ship of course, in outer space, and she's going on her first mission here to kind of assist with a distress beacon on a hijacked ship where these pirates have taken over. And so it's a really awesome story with really cool art. And so we're really excited to talk, as I said, to talk to him more about it. And so without further ado, Matt, why don't you go ahead and give us a brief explanation on who you are, how you got started in comics, and what MacKinnon Chronicles is all about.
I'm a writer from Michigan, and even though that kind of doesn't give a whole lot of meaning, since most people think of writers coming from New York or LA. It's far away. I see fan comic that is online. I have sold at Motor City Comic Con back in 2020.
But Matt, I'm not sure. We're having some technical difficulties here. We're having trouble hearing you on our end here. I'm not sure if our viewers are having the same issue here. Maybe if you can try unplugging your mic perhaps and plugging that back in here.
It says on my end that I'm talking.
Let's go ahead and try again. We hear you. You're coming in here now, so let's maybe try that again if you don't mind.
So, as I was saying earlier, I'm a writer from Michigan. Don't know how much distinction that gives, other than I'm not in LA or New York. And my first foray into comics was with a little-known fantasy webcomic that is thankfully no longer around, since I wasn't that great at the time. I sold copies of it at Motor City Comic Con back in 2012, which was the only time I actually sold my work until the 2019 Mythoverse campaign. And basically, I haven't stopped building new worlds since.
That's awesome, man. And yeah, so you mentioned your first.
With MacKinnon Chronicles.
Oh, yes, sorry,
it started after. Yeah. MacKinnon Chronicles. It sounded like there was a little bit of breakup.
Some technical difficulties, it sounds like, perhaps. Yeah, are you still with us there, Matt?
Let's see.
I think we've fallen through a wormhole into another dimension, perhaps, where time and technology are melding into one.
Okay, how am I coming in now?
I can hear you now, loud and clear. let's just hope our computers don't turn against us and turn all HAL one robot. What was it? HAL 9000 or whatever. Will I dream?
Oh no, it's the rise of the machines.
Yeah, really. Oh God, we got a lot of technology.
It's the rise of Skynet.
Now, hopefully, we can get this this thing working. It'll smooth out here throughout the stream. But essentially, the comic is kind of a hard science fiction series. Maybe you tell us a little bit about why you wanted to do something more in that sense, in that kind of style, as opposed to something in the more of a fantastical, kind of more science fantasy, perhaps.
It's not so much of a hard science fiction type story, as in it's more of a medium range science fiction, because on one end you've got some more fantastical technology such as artificial gravity involved, and on the other hand there are some elements involving hard science that come into play, such as if you go outside in space, you'll die without a spacesuit. And
really,
I figure that if you do it with a completely hard science sci-fi method with space opera, it's going to end up getting dated very rapidly by a lot by the time it gets to that point. It's the year that the science fiction story takes place. Because right now we understand very little of the universe. So you don't know what kind of stuff is out there. What kind of, let's say, what could interfere with a ship's sensors and so on.
But would you say it is more grounded? Like, there's no aliens, for example, in this universe, is there? Or is that
there's hints of an ancient alien race?
Interesting. Huh. Oh, okay. So
Yep.
you're interesting. I had no idea. I thought you were playing more like, I thought in my mind I was thinking this was more like a Star Trek universe. But it sounds like it's more like well, maybe not Mass Effect, but
I'm kind of thinking more of the Fermi paradox, where it's a lot of that theory kind of contains to where like life is so sparse because of just the vastness of time and space itself, to where like there's the possibility of every galaxy having one life form at a time, but at the same time there's...
You guys still there?
Can you hear me?
Seems like we're having quite a few issues here today. Oh God.
I don't know if I can hear
difficulties.
By an ancient race of technologically advanced aliens.
I can hear you guys now.
Can you see us now as well? Are we coming through on your? Are we metaphysically appearing before you?
Okay, so am I coming through?
Yes, I can hear you.
Why don't I bring up some while we're hopefully getting these technical issues resolved here? I'm gonna go and bring up some art here.
Okay.
So we can take a look at.
But to me, it seems like with that possibility of an ancient race either being teased, that's a very interesting concept for it.
Right, I do like that. It reminds me of kind of like the Mass Effect had the Prometheans in a sense.
It's somewhat more like The Expanse with how they do it.
I gotta watch that show. I've heard it's very good.
Humans are the only ones in space that's in space, but there's also ancient technology in play in the form of the proto-molecule.
What is that exactly?
Well, in The Expanse, that's a type of technology that I guess changes organic matter.
Hmm.
So, while with MacKinnon Chronicles, the hints of the ancient alien races isn't from some kind of molecule. It's shown in feats such as Dyson spheres around previously undiscovered stars, for example.
And for those who maybe not know, what is exactly the Dyson sphere?
A Dyson sphere is basically, there's a number of ways of describing it. One, it's a bunch of satellites that cover the sun, and they beam the energy from the solar energy from the sun to the other planets. And on the other hand of a Dyson sphere, which everyone else is, who reads science fiction is more familiar with, it's the type of massive construction of an entire sphere world around a star. So you have this massive construct that you can live in.
I think they did it on Halo, maybe on Halo 4. I feel like that was like the plot of yeah. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and for those who are familiar with Star Trek Next Generation, they even do an episode with the Dyson sphere.
Really? Huh.
If I'm correct, I think even scientists found like a star that was kind of blipping, and for about a month they were kind of teetering around the theory of it being one of the first objects being theorized as a Dyson sphere, but they kind of concluded that that's more impossible rather than probable, and they found other likely reasons as well.
Yep. Everyone was excited because it was it was proof of alien life in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty awesome, man. Yeah. Now your book is going to be heading to crowdfunding here pretty soon. You're doing both an Indiegogo and a Kickstarter. I posted links up here in the chat for people who want to check those out. And so you're crowdfunding for a first issue here. Maybe can you tell us a little about where you can expect to see in this first issue?
A completed story.
Yeah, that's always a good thing.
Yeah, a lot of crowdfunding comics tend to go for issue 1, issue 2, issue 3 for a continuing story. But it seems like with a lot of crowdfunding campaigns that do very well, but just go on forever in terms of fulfillment limbo. They are continuing stories that will never get continued because the backers lose faith in them.
True, yeah, or they just take so long that you forget about the original one. Or
in the event of that, if this isn't received well and doesn't have backing for part 2, the readers will at least have that completed story, and they don't feel cheated.
And so, in that sense, are the issues of MacKinnon Chronicles, are they kind of almost standalone stories that have a larger plot, or something of that nature?
What was that?
So when you pick up an issue of MacKinnon Chronicles, are you going to be getting like, is it going to be kind of like a procedural show you might see on TV, like NCIS or something, where you're going to get a complete story with those characters and then move on to the next adventure in a sense?
Kind of. It's going to be more along the lines of how C.S. Forrester wrote the Hornblower novels, in that they're separate stories, but the next crowdfunding campaign might not be a full, well, it may not have Captain MacKinnon, but rather, let's say, a Cadet MacKinnon going on her first voyage in command of a training vessel.
Like
And
almost
going
like
through
That's
the
actually
challenges
pretty
of that.
interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the idea of doing like kind of exploring her backstory a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I do have an idea for a storyline that involves a massive battle. Basically, the two opposing sides of a galactic Cold War finally turn it hot. So we could see why they spent centuries not engaging one another because of how long it takes for to conquer an entire system and all the ships involved, all the fleets involved with taking a system.
And how do you treat and approach space travel in your series?
It's very limited. Basically, I find it more interesting to have restrictions set on space travel as opposed to free reign, such as in Star Trek, you could just warp out of a situation, bad situation.
Very true.
And from what I've read about FTL travel, it always generates so much energy that if, let's say, you're opening up a wormhole, but your ship is destroyed when the wormhole is being opened, what happens to that energy? Will it be destructive like a nuclear explosion? And what does that do to the planet nearby? Does it destroy it? Does it cause damage to the planet itself?
Huh.
So
That's a really interesting idea. I like that concept.
yeah,
Mhm.
so for the most part, it's going to be similar to a Mass Effect style, where the galaxy is connected through these gateways. While it's not going to use the same method as Mass Effect because that leads into lawsuits, it's more grounded with opening up wormholes.
And so
And
in your series, that is possible. That's how is that a possibility there? Is that how they travel around?
yep,
And is this part of the kind of the ancient technology that you mentioned earlier?
no, that's something that humanity
Create
gets
themselves.
itself. Yep.
Oh, okay, interesting.
So, real quick, something that I've been kind of thinking throughout all of this conversation is, if you could reveal it, that is, what time period is humans at?
Great question.
Is this like
Well,
way far future, or is this more like a couple hundred years, or maybe even 1,000 or two?
I'd have to say about maybe 3,000 years in the future.
Okay.
Oh wow, this is very far into the future.
Yep.
Very, very advanced technology.
I mean, it's covering it. We've got humanity with
That's
this
true.
massive galaxy-wide empire.
Hmm.
And are these still in the Milky Way?
Yep.
Nice.
Andromeda is too far away for us.
I can kind of see that. That is, isn't it like millions of light years away? So that is an unfathomable amount of miles away, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's in this. So in this series, the characters are confined to just this one galaxy, right?
Yep.
Ah, interesting.
I mean, Mass Effect, it took them 600 years.
And then they got stuck there too, I think, right?
Well, you're kind of stuck there if it takes 600 years just to go from Milky Way to Andromeda.
Oof.
Well, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, that's pretty much stuck there, and probably with time-space dilation, it would be
You think
far
Mars is lonely?
pointless.
Try Andromeda.
Jesus. Yeah, and who knows what's over in that galaxy? I mean,
That's for another story to explore.
yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
That's funny. Is that at least give me this? Is Pluto the planet still?
What are you talking about? Pluto's always been a planet.
Yay!
Hey, whoa,
Welcome to
whoa.
Pluto.
Not to the scientists. Well, kind of. They've mitigated to the realm of dwarf planet.
All right, we'll give it to you.
I mean,
Let's
it
be
is
honest.
only a little bit bigger than our own moon, so
Let's be honest. Pluto is kind of a hot topic.
I always liked on the TV show Psych how I think his name is Gus. He always says, "Oh, you hear about Pluto? So messed up." I love that. But no, that's really interesting, man. I love that, and it's kind of like you said, it's kind of that mix between grounded hard science fiction and more fantastical elements, and kind of blending the two together into a nice medium.
Yeah, plus the fact that a lot of what really predicted technology wasn't exactly hard science fiction.
Very true. I mean, yeah, that's a great point, honestly.
It's a mix of what we know today and imagination.
Speaking of which, I mean, this is a great example right here. I feel like this. How did you come up with the ship designs with your designers and artists and stuff here?
I gave Killbox as much freedom as possible. I just told them, okay, this is a battle cruiser, this is a heavy cruiser. Make them look really like cool. That. Yeah.
Like I feel like the maybe it's because you had the same person designing them, but they have a strong sense of unity. Like they feel like they belong in the same universe.
Definitely, and there are certain aspects of design for them, such as with a battle cruiser, it's built more for speed and weapons rather than armor, while the heavy cruiser is built for weapons and armor, but not speed.
Yeah, it looks very beefy.
Definitely. It even looks like if possibly even a center cannon right where those jaws look to be.
I was thinking that too. Yeah. Some sort of energy weapon, maybe.
I mean, it's probably just you see it all the time with classical like animes with space travel, and then even
which we know Matt's a fan of.
Old school. That is true.
Yeah, but those are usually given to the hero. That's usually given to the hero ship. Okay.
Is this not a hero ship? What kind of ship are we seeing here?
It's the antagonist ship.
Okay.
Yeah. Speaking of which, what's because we know that humans obviously in this series have spread throughout the galaxy. What side does Maisie MacKinnon fall on, and what kind of factions are there that exist in this universe?
Well, I have to say that she's on the side of the Solarian Alliance, and they're the government that comes from Sol System, basically our system. In this future sense, technology isn't at a point where we have fast and light communications. All of the colonies are essentially independent, so the Solarian Alliance is basically a type of government that is more like the UN, except with an actual military to help protect the systems. Because what allows a governing body like the Solarian Alliance exist is the fact that they found alien technology on our planet, and that leads to the whole question of, well, what if they come back and they're not friendly?
That's always a risk, isn't it?
Yep. And on the other side of that is more of a splinter group called the Terran Federal Republic, where they decided, you know what, screw you guys, we're going to govern ourselves. So they're more of a more loosely connected kind of government, like much less loose than the Solarian Alliance. And so that while they have their own military, the colonies just decide on what they want to contribute to it. And since it's and they tend to use the Solarian Alliance as the boogeyman, similar to how the Alliance uses an unknown alien as a boogeyman.
Huh, that's very interesting, then. And kind of like kind of almost to vilify them in a way.
Yep.
Yeah, total classic propaganda move.
Well,
And-
it's kind of good to know that humans haven't changed so much in the past 2,000 years, I guess.
And also scary in the same sense.
Yeah. Scary in a sense, but a little refreshing.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of that comes from I have inspiration from Harlan Ellison on how to think about humans at that point, and really we haven't changed so much in the last couple thousand years as much as we like to think we do. So we're probably not going to change all that much a couple thousand years from now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that idea. I kind of had the same view of the future as well. So I really like that take on it. You know, where it's like those familiar elements are still there.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the reason why people liked the show Babylon 5 is that it took humanity and made it basically we're still the same race a couple hundred years from now, and if you put us in a giant tin can, we'll start trying to kill each other.
Now, I'd like to ask you, since it is about, I think you said about 3,000 years in the future, if I'm not mistaken. Is there any? Are you playing around with the idea of human evolution at all, or anything like that?
Well, basically, I said this once in a tweet where, in this universe, cyberpunk is primitive technology. What they are more interested in now is organic technology. So they are going to have there's going to be some kind of genetic enhancement, such as with the Estrenes, which are the Space Force version of a Marine. They're going to be more augmented in terms of strength and speed.
And so, in that sense, instead of getting a metal arm, you'd get something more synthetic or organic, like you're saying, or not synthetic, but like
organic.
Something that's like kind of like material that's been kind of grown.
Yep.
Instead of created.
I can kind of see that as more of a genetic, in a sense, like a genetic manipulation to where it's like combining the exoskeleton with our soft, smooth skin, basically, where it's just more durable rather than actually being our skeleton in a sense.
And if you can regrow a limb, then you don't have to worry about it, right?
Shit, would humans be able to do that?
Well, I'm sure even if you couldn't regrow it yourself, you could, like, let's say you lost an arm, right? And this, I may be taking too many liberties here, but it sounds to me like you could go and get yourself a new arm regrown and attached to your body. Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, by that time, medical technology will be able to reattach all the necessary veins.
Yeah,
to
so
one another.
so that's why I think that's what makes sense to me. Like, yeah, the cyberpunk stuff is like, well, that's no need for that. We have stuff even more better because it's even more realistic. It's, you know what I mean? It's that much more the next level.
Also, you want to know how much longer the human lifespan is?
Oh God,
How much?
long?
Well, Maisie is 53.
Okay. So she looks maybe 20s, 30s.
She's like Tsunade from Naruto.
So we could probably say about probably 200 years for the human lifespan now.
Yeah, and it also depends on time dilation too.
I can see that.
Oh yeah, I mean that's a big thing too. I mean, yeah, that's interesting.
Larry Niven, with known space, has been known to play around with the age of his protagonists, such as with the main protagonist of Ringworld, Louis Wu. He's 200 years old.
Oh jeez.
Oh wow,
that's interesting.
Yep.
Do you have many 200-year-olds in the MacKinnon Chronicles universe?
Oh, I'm sure they're gonna be playing them.
Darkened Link says humans get old,
but they look young.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Speaking of, I mean, let's pull up an image here of I almost call it Mackenzie, of Maisie MacKinnon. And so this is her here. So she's 53, you said?
Yep.
My goodness gracious.
She has adult children.
Ah, jeez. Oh man, that's hilarious. And are all the characters like that? Like they all essentially look younger than they are?
Oh yeah.
Interesting. And that's because of the. You said you're going to the story, but there's reasoning with the time. Would you call it the time dilation?
Time dilation plus medical technology, because I mean, when you look at how old people are getting now, William Shatner is 90 years old. And you can't believe it by the fact that he's still hosting TV shows.
That is pretty funny. And very true. And very, very true. Now, this is a really cool image here. I believe this one is this art by Travis here?
Yep.
Yes, he always does incredible work here. And no surprise, this is another awesome piece. But this is kind of what we're seeing is her exosuit and kind of the ins and outs of how some of her technology works here.
Yeah, basically, if you get blown out, let's say J.J. Abrams decides to do a MacKinnon Chronicles movie, all those people who are blown out into space will survive.
But let me ask you, how many lens flares will they see on their way out?
They'll survive, but they'll be fine.
Now that's very interesting. That is, I love the kind of detail and time you guys put into, like, clearly this was a thought out design here. Like there's even like showing the layers of this suit here, which is a kind of really
that is pretty smart because it can really pay off. And not only that, it really shows that you try to stick to the realm of science rather than just being like, you know what, screw it, it's science, nobody knows.
Right.
Or
like
space.
It's that balance of science fantasy and the hard science fiction where it's, yeah, you might have some more fictional elements, but at the same time the rules and the universe are really trying to stick to how you would see a real, really would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, the designs aren't going to be anything like what we've seen with, let's say, Star Trek Discovery's 1,000 years in the future starships, because if you guys follow me on Twitter, you'll see me complain about how the Discovery has joined that rank where they have detachable warp nacelles.
Yeah, I saw the image you posted, and it's like the two boosters on the side are essentially free floating, almost like they're magnetically connected. I was like, what is this?
I mean,
Yeah.
I haven't even watched Discovery, and from some of the stuff that I've seen, I'm like, this isn't Star Trek. No, thank you. Like, I can't watch what new Star Trek is. You know, to me, that's not what it is. To me, it's more of the exploration of the mind in space rather than battles and hurling, like, I wouldn't say slurs, but like hurling fucking stupid shit at people just to start things, and then plot dramas that could easily be avoidable by like talking and other stuff that Next Generation and even old school Star Trek really trying to get to, and even Voyager was doing for a bit. And it's like, I can't watch these. I really just cannot. I can't.
The only good thing about Discovery was the Enterprise. I was called a fake Star Trek fan for saying that the new Enterprise design was beautiful.
Really?
I mean, there's probably nothing wrong with in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with liking newer designs or even just, I would say, upgrades to certain things. Like, I remember a lot of people hated the redesign that they did for the Next Generation movies, and I was like, well, it makes sense. I mean, why would you just continuously have the same old ship for like 10 years if newer technology is coming out? Come on.
I mean,
We upgrade things every year.
I remember them complaining about how the Enterprise E looked like Voyager, and that was the point. They were going to a new design scheme. They were advancing the design scheme.
Yeah, I think a lot of times when people bring in new designs, I think there's always just a lot of pushback in general, just because people, are already used to what they're used to. So maybe not even what that they don't like it necessarily. It's just they got used to that new design. But,
yeah, and the thing is, people like to complain about them, but my opinion is that if someone were to get that worked up about it, I'll be happy. I really will, because that means someone loves it.
Yeah, so if they're putting that much time and energy into it, that is a good point, right? I'd rather have that than the no conversation at all, because at least that's starting the conversation right there.
Yeah, and I really hate when people are described as, say, haters because of that. And no, they're just fans who are just very
passionate.
Yeah.
That's a good point, man. I mean, that's a fair way to look at it,
Well, to me, it just seems like people just aren't allowed to have opinions anymore about stuff. And it's like, well, that's just dumb. Someone should be able to have an opinion about something. Regardless of on how others think of it. It's their personal thought. It's not like they're gonna start grabbing a pitchfork or a torch and start going to the creator's home, in a sense. I mean,
and so we actually
maybe
do have
sometimes, but if they're a logical person, no.
And so we do actually have
fandom.
We have a question from the chat here. Darken Link says, "How fast does the ships travel? Speed of light, or what? What's what are we talking here?"
The fastest the ship can go is about 85% the speed of light.
Okay, interesting. It's pretty damn fast, but approaching speed of light, but not quite there.
And it's basically, in a way, it's going to be more along the lines of a slow burn space battle as the book goes on.
How do you mean exactly?
Well, basically, there's going to be a lot of space between the two ships, and with the Hyperion as a battle cruiser, it's going to want to be able to keep away from a heavy cruiser because of the fact that, for lack of better terms, a battle cruiser is a glass cannon. It can dish out damage, but it can't take it.
Interesting. And that's the battle cruiser, you said?
Yep, that's Maisie's ship.
Maisie ship is the the
Hyperion.
winter,
Midwinter class.
the midwinter class, right? Let me pull
Yep.
that. I'm gonna pull that ship up, design up here just a moment ago. For those maybe who missed it, we showed it a little bit earlier. But this is Maisie MacKinnon ship here. And like you said, this one it doesn't really necessarily take damage too well. It's not a tanky ship.
Nope. And that's the thing about that I'm going to have as a standard for ships in this series is that every ship has a specific design, and role. Which Hyperion is good for catching and overwhelming things it can catch. But as well as running away from what it can't fight.
I like that. Yeah, it can quickly get away when it needs to, but it can also quickly catch up when it needs to and deal damage and get out fast. And it sounds like a very maneuverable kind of ship.
Mm-hmm.
I like that, man. Yeah. Not to be too nerdy, but it kind of reminds me of the Black Pearl from Pirates of the Caribbean. It was like faster than all the other ships. Well, that's very cool, man. I love the designs of these ships. I really feel like Killbox nailed the designs 100%.
Oh yeah, he definitely wants to go back to the older designs and redo them, such as the Corvette Lexington from an earlier version.
So you do have other designs out there?
Yep.
Nice.
But it's going to be a fun ride.
Yeah, really, dude. I just love the kind of the world that you're building out of all the comics that we've seen through Wiki. I feel like you have one of the most expansive worlds that you've been building. So I've been very excited, to see kind of what you've got going on.
And there's also a character from another indie comic that makes her appearance.
Let me think. Who could that be? Could it possibly be a red-haired protagonist whose name?
Well, are you able to say anything at this time, or is that still a little under wraps?
Well,
Well,
since we showed Regina in there in one of the preview pages.
Boom. That's right, folks. Regina of Rags fame.
Yeah, and Brian Ball and I had talked. Well, basically, when I say talk, I mean Brian gave me his idea of what happens to the Rogowski family in the future, and something that I've decided I've taken a little bit of liberties with, such as he came up with the idea of the Rogowskis having a fortune, and basically you have Rogowskis signing up for military service to get their inheritance. And I came up with the idea of, well, since the Rogowski family is probably going to be so big in a few thousand years in the future, they'll take on Regina's tattoos to show if they're in the running.
That's funny. I love that. Yeah, and of course you using the character with permission.
Of course.
Yes, and but it's fun to see that kind of future take on that character and what a descendant might look like. And it's just so much fun. And I also thought it was funny. Brett posted on Twitter. I think it was him. He posted that despite all the efforts to the contrary, that redheads still exist in the far future.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was pretty hilarious.
And I think that's the reason why Brian let me use Regina for this.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I mean, even just the tattoos have become iconic, like you said. You can kind of just get one look at the character and kind of know who it is. So that's a fun cameo.
Yeah, she's going to be the string character. She's going to be a fighter. And in this story, kind of a lens for some of the people who want to know more about how things run on a ship. Because she's in a screen, she doesn't take part in the piloting of the ship or the day-to-day maintenance of it. Instead, she's part of the group that maintains security on the ship, much like the Red Shirts on Star Trek.
Oh, that's funny.
Only thing is that I don't have them as disposable cannon fodder. They're going to be more like the real-life Marines.
I'm glad. That's definitely good to hear that. Yeah. Now, is she friends with Maisie? Are they kind of, close to one another?
I'd say that they respect one another to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
There's obviously going to be some rivalry between them because of the different departments different departments of the military.
I see. So they don't necessarily work side by side.
No, but Maisie is the commanding officer, so there's got to be respect there. And jokes.
Maisie outranks her.
Oh yeah, if there's anything I'm going to say about any Rogowski that's going to be in MacKinnon Chronicles, they're going to be non-commissioned officers.
So in a sense, I don't know if you're familiar with the Gears of War series, but it's almost like the Carmine character, except for without the the Sans, the getting shot part. But there was always a character with the same name, Carmine. I think it was Carmine, and one of the characters essentially, and they say, "Oh yeah, this is his brother. Oh no, yeah, this is just another brother. Oh yeah, this is his third brother over here." And so it's kind of like that, right? It's like where there's a bunch of them out there.
Yeah, and the idea of having them all be non-commissioned officers comes from partly also comes from a character played by Arlie Ermey on the show Space Above and Beyond, where one of the Marine recruits calls his character, which is a drill sergeant, an officer. His response was, "Officer, do I look like an officer? I work for a living."
Oh, that's pretty good. Nice. Well, that's interesting. I like that. That's very cool. It'll be fun to see how that kind of plays into the series, and it'll be a nice Easter egg.
Yeah, and it also gives him an excuse to do something science fiction with the Rogowski family.
True, right? Yeah, that's a good point. Doesn't necessarily get to do that with the other kind of stories.
Funny thing is that his artist Luigi is a big science fiction fan, so I'd actually love to get Luigi to do some science fiction stories set in the MacKinnon Chronicles universe.
Oh, that'd be cool, wouldn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, hopefully one day you'll be able to bring him on to the project there.
Hopefully Brian won't be working him to death.
Yeah, that would be very nice.
Well, we'll see about that. No promises there.
But yeah, it's also great to know that there is an opening to get Luigi on board.
Tell me more. Now, this version of Maisie we see is kind of like the first image we saw, but this looks like more of her, like maybe just her what she wears going around the spaceship. Can you tell us maybe what this kind of suit is all about?
You're kind of breaking up right now.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
You're kind of
still breaking up. Okay. How's that? Is that a little better?
Could you repeat the question?
Yes. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? I feel like I'm the Verizon guy. Hey Matt B, can you hear me? Okay, Matt Bryant.
Yeah, I can. I think.
No, I meant
Yeah,
Matt
yeah,
B.
yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear both of you perfectly.
I'm guessing. I'm going to guess that you were asking about the uniform.
Yeah, I was curious. So what this one was about here.
Okay, so that's a standard duty uniform for the crew, and it's basically what they wear when they don't have to be in the spacesuit.
Okay, kind of like a loungewear.
Well, not so much that as it is their standard uniform.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Not that casual, and that's a little too far.
Yep.
Interesting. It's kind of like what you would see them wearing while they're at like the helm of the ship, perhaps.
Yep.
Okay, interesting. It looks very comfortable, I have to say.
Well, when you go out in space and you're on a ship for months on end, you gotta be comfortable.
True. And it seems like it's again, this is the future, so you've kind of layered in these elements. It looks like we see the different layers of the suit here. So I'm assuming this is kind of more of a futuristic kind of space suit than maybe one we would see in a modern era, for example. Something a little more comfortable, perhaps.
Yeah.
It definitely looks like it, and probably better fibers and everything
right?
else.
More
Probably,
durable, maybe.
hey, you never know. They might even be bulletproof.
Hey, one could hope. One could hope. You definitely
Right?
don't want to puncture in a suit.
Yeah, and honestly, it's gotta be more comfortable than what Gene Roddenberry had in mind, because his idea of the perfect uniform gave actors back problems.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Well, I mean, that's where the meme of like Picard always pulling down his shirt came from.
Well,
Trying to make it like more comfortable on him. That's always funny to see.
the season 1 through 3 was the one they had to change from that because Patrick Stewart was developing back problems, and if they didn't change it, he'd have to leave the show.
Oh God, that's crazy, dude.
Yep.
Jeez, they need better clothing designers apparently.
Mm-hmm.
That's intense, man.
Well, it's not so much that as it was Gene Roddenberry wanted the uniforms to be a size shorter than what the actors had, because he believed that in the future nobody had wrinkles.
That doesn't make
That
any
is
sense.
weird.
Doesn't make
Yep.
sense. How does that even? Yeah, I'm not trying to follow on that one.
Gene Roddenberry had weird ideas.
That's too funny, man. And so in MacKinnon Chronicles, in this universe, do you have wrinkles?
At this point, nobody cares.
No one's thought to look.
Besides, I'm pretty sure that any new kind of clothing that is around at that time will probably be able to iron itself out.
Very true. I think that could have been what he was going for too with his idea, in a sense.
Yeah, but that's something you do with a comic or a cartoon.
Right.
Not with real people.
Yeah, especially if you're doing a show that's done over years and years. I mean, when you're giving your actors back problems, that's an issue.
And they gotta spend
Yeah,
spend
definitely.
about 12 hours a day in that uniform too.
Ay. That's a little too much, man. The pain you go through for Star Trek, man.
I mean, some actors like to do their own stunts. Jackie Chan broke every bone in his body.
Yeah, Jackie Chan is another incredible example. Just an amazing performer and just stuntman. Yeah. Oof. Man, yeah. If you had to, if there was ever a movie version of MacKinnon Chronicles, do you have an idea of who you might want to see in the roles there? Do we have a role for Jackie Chan?
I think his character will probably be 1,000 years old.
Hey, that sounds about right.
But for Maisie, I'd have to say get someone who is an unknown and ginger.
Of
A
course,
ginger is
yes.
important.
Yes, we're not gonna. Yeah, really. None of this changing the hair color to match what the Hollywood standards are. None of that.
She has to have Frank. She needs to have freckles.
Yeah, really, dude. It's funny. Well, I'm not sure funny is the right word for it, but it's interesting just how often that happens in Hollywood.
Yeah,
Like
red hair
kids,
character.
I don't get it. Harry Potter's like one of the only ones I can think of where they're like, okay, no, we're not going to change it. We're sticking to the plan here.
Well, that was before they decided that gingers are bad.
Yeah, I guess so. Even South Park makes fun of that all the time.
Yep.
And was there a particular reason that you wanted to go with the red hair character?
Because I actually like red-haired women.
No wonder Regina made her way into this book series then.
No wonder I found out about rags.
Yeah, seriously.
Well, hey, there's nothing wrong with having tastes.
Exactly, man. Exactly. It just shows she's a cultured individual.
Exactly.
Oh man, that's too funny.
It's actually also funny that in some of the early Star Trek novels, about 80s, 90s, it was ingrained that the most attractive woman out there was a redhead.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder when that changed. Like when why wasn't that the case anymore?
About the same time, they probably kicked out all the women of the women writers.
Ouch. Probably true.
I'm not saying that they decided that they wanted to have all men do it, but there's a distinct decrease in number of women writing Star Trek novels in comparison to all the Star Trek novels I have right now. I mean, Diane Carey, Diane Duan, A.C. Crispin, to name a few.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I wonder why that is exactly. Just other than times, I guess.
I think it's largely because a lot of those writers that established so much of Star Trek into novels ended up retiring from that. I don't even think Diane Carey even likes doing Star Trek anymore because I haven't seen her talk about any of it. I have before she died, A.C. Crispin did talk about her work with Star Trek. With Diane Carey, it was it's really odd since a lot of what she did for the novels made it into the canon, such as the 2009 Star Trek movie used her book Best Destiny to set up Kirk's character.
Really? Huh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Do you think it's more of a kind of the treatment Disney gave Star Wars?
I think it's very possible that the treatment of the writers wasn't that great.
Yeah, I can see it. A lot of times that writers don't necessarily get the credit or treatment that they deserve in these kind of productions.
Yeah,
it's easy to. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to push the writer to the side in a way. To say like, oh well, everyone talks about the director or whatever the actors and. But,
yeah, and the thing is, a lot of the guys that are writing Star Trek now aren't doing a good job of it because they keep on inserting their personal politics into it.
Picard. Excuse me.
Well, it's not just that, but
Discovery, Lower Decks.
Yeah.
well, it's beyond. I'm talking about the novels, and
even specific the novels.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm talking about the novels, and
Oh, wow.
so you could get that bias with Chauvel when one of them was talking about how in the page for the dedication, one of the authors takes the time to bash Bush, and it's. I mean,
that's a weird dedication. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not exactly a defender of George W. Bush, but
kind of wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, and a lot of what I read after that, I could see nothing but his politics in there.
Yikes.
Afterward.
Yikes. Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah.
It's like, are you trying to write a Star Trek thing, or are you trying to write your own thing and make it a Star Trek thing?
Mm-hmm.
I'm right. Yeah. As for me, as far as the politics goes, it's and how I think humanity will be better off in the future, such as eventually, I don't think there's going to be a massive interstellar government. I think it's going to be, if we do have one, it's going to be more like Solarian Alliance, where it's going to be against some kind of boogeyman, rather than a true interstellar government. Because I don't think it's possible to create a intergalactic government without faster than light communications,
which is somewhat unrealistic, right?
Yeah, unless we have something that rewrites the rules of physics for us, which I think it
would be a crazy thing.
I think it is possible that could happen, though.
I mean, it's an interesting concept. I've seen it somewhat, done in certain stories where like you said, a new technology introduced that kind of revolutionizes things, and then where does that take humanity from there?
Yeah, and honestly, I think for the most part, the most politics you'll get from me is libertarian politics and how the colonies can run themselves. And that's more of this is going to be how I feel like it's going to be more realistic.
That's very understandable.
And so, like, since they don't have ways to communicate between these long distances, that's why it's almost impossible. To me, it'd be like, I guess you could technically have a galactic government, but it would almost be like how Britain was back in the day with its colonies, where you're having to send out, if you want to get a message to one of the colonies, you have to send it by ship, and that's going to take a while. And so in that sense, it's almost like sending it. It's almost like that kind of a setup where you're having to wait these long distances. There's not that instantaneous transmission of messages. So it's a completely different way of governing, even if it was possible.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting, man. and likewise, I mean, of course, then you also have to consider, well, then goods and services would probably have to be traded likewise between colonies and worlds as well. I would think between maybe this world doesn't have an abundance of crops or something, right? Maybe they have to import things in. Do you kind of think about these things at all when you're playing with the world and creating the world?
Yeah, and I can see it being supplemented by orbital facilities where you can grow crops, and there are some star systems where you don't have any world that's habitable, so they turn into more resource systems where they're mined out for where we harvest resources from.
Okay, interesting.
So, real quick, I'm kind of like thinking about how expansive like the colonies are and everything. Are they mainly living in, you could say, space stations, or there are quite a few colonies that are on planets?
It's a mixture of both. There's thousands of livable worlds in this galaxy, and then there's also those that live on space stations as well. Such as you're going to have two different types of people, such as one side you've got lives in space for most of their lives, and the others live on planets. And part of it, I also thought about how different the cultures would be, such as if you live in space, you're not going to have that much privacy, so you're not going to be concerned with privacy as much as someone who lived on a planet would be.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. Yeah, and I do like the idea of like each, each colony or whatever you want to call it, each place having its own unique culture and identity. Because it does seem like that would really happen, especially this far into the future, where people have been established on these places for so long. You're gonna start develop those just like any country would. You're gonna start developing those unique parts about the culture in each location. That's pretty fun. Like people who live on Mars are going to be completely different from people who live on Pluto. They're going to have cultures and customs that are very different, I would think.
But also in the Expanse work upon that as well.
Nice. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Nice. Is Expanse a big influence for you? Would you say?
Funny enough, no, not really. This series was. I have this. I started working this all out back in 2013, long before I read any of the Expanse novels or the TV series came out.
How funny! But yeah. So I mean, I do. Do you like? Are you a fan of that show though? Do you enjoy it?
Yeah, although there are some things I find to be rather unrealistic, such as the Earth being overpopulated.
Really? How come?
By that time, we should be able to build orbital habitats where you could just move people up there.
I see. Interesting. Okay. Well, yeah, I could totally see where you're coming from with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I gotta watch that show, man. I've been meaning to. I think it's coming. Isn't it coming back for another season? Even.
Yeah, one last season.
One last season. Yeah, I gotta catch up, man. I've always heard good stuff about it.
It's kind of like Game of Thrones, except that the books are actually getting done.
Is there any more books coming out?
They've got one last one coming out.
And is that the last season of the show?
No, because the last season of the show is going to be book 6, I think.
Wait, so then the show is not going to be finished?
Nope.
No! Maybe they'll come back and do a movie. Maybe they can do the last book as a movie.
Well, last trilogy.
Oh, God. There's more books coming after that?
Well, each storyline is done as a trilogy. So you have the first one that deals with the protocol threat. Second one dealing with becoming an interstellar civilization. And last one dealing with the effects of all of that. And tying up all loose ends.
Hopefully they'll adapt it to a show at some point. So everyone who watches the show can have some closure there.
Yeah. If it's anything, if I were to have a MacKinnon Chronicles show, I'll have it so that each season would be a storyline of its very own.
That way it can have a resolution to it.
Yeah. I mean, there's something wrong with being ambitious, but there's got to be some acknowledgement of limitations.
Go ahead.
It was a real risk for Babylon 5 to do a 5-year story arc by not being a Star Trek show.
Yeah, that's pretty intense, but it kind of paid off in their case.
Kind of, because it almost got canceled at season 4.
Jeez. But now it's considered like a cult classic.
Yeah, it just recently got remastered for HBO Max.
Oh wow, nice. Oh wow, I'll be checking that out.
Mm-hmm.
Keep in mind, it has a remaster, and Deep Space Nine doesn't.
I should tell you something. Now, in the first issue of MacKinnon Chronicles, she kind of goes after, I think I made a mention before, but she's going after a group of pirates who have hijacked a vessel, like some sort of shipping vessel, I believe. Maybe can you tell us a little bit about what the story is in this first issue?
Well, they hijacked a Terran warship.
Even worse. That's much worse than a shipping vessel.
Which they are given the explanation that it was the Terrans tell them that it was hijacked while it was still being built, and that the weapons shouldn't be the same grade as a military ship. Well, not to give any too much of a spoiler, but that turns out to be wrong.
Yikes.
And so we'll get to see the story unfold. I'll be taking the Hyperion from open space to one of those to an orbital colony for repairs, and then a binary planet for the final battle.
Nice. So we're gonna get some battle in this first issue.
Yep.
There's
gonna be a lot of fighting.
I mean, we know what we like in it, you know. No need to hold back.
There's gonna be fighting. There's gonna be world building. There's gonna be some pretty fun stuff, such as by what I mean by a binary planet, I mean 2 planets orbiting one another.
Oh, that's interesting. We haven't really seen that. No, I have not seen that before.
It's been done once before with the show Space Battleship Yamato, and it wasn't certain whether or not it was real science, but they think they found a binary planet system.
Wow, that's wild. 2 planets essentially would be like perfectly balanced in orbit with each other.
Yeah, and a lot of crazy gravity science involved with that
too. Gravity's a crazy thing.
Yep.
That's pretty cool, man. That's very interesting. I love that concept. I feel like it's gonna look really cool once it all gets completed there. Now, how many pages is this first issue?
48.
Oh dang! So it's a nice big first beefy first issue.
Yep.
Wow, that's nice.
I want them to be each graphic novel length.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome, man. That's kind of going back to your whole idea of it being a story that you can kind of pick up and read, and it had to be a self-contained story. You know, kind of like you can read every issue if you want, but if you want to just pick up one and get a story, you're going to get a story.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's smart. It's a good way to do it. You know, especially nowadays when everybody is doing serialized stories, you don't necessarily see that too often.
Yeah, and I think the most interesting stories are the ones that seem like they're not serialized, but they have elements that foreshadow another.
Right, because then, especially for the people who are following it, all of a sudden they start to pick up on those things, and it's almost like surprises or little Easter eggs or treats that you get for paying attention along the way.
Yep.
I love that kind of stuff, man. That is always really fun to see.
I am thinking on the chance that I have intelligent readers.
Hey, man, that's always a good way to do it. Don't insult your readers, that's for sure.
No, I'm also not gonna spoon feed them anything either. I mean,
nice.
it's it's also something I really don't like about the entertainment industry lately is that they want to spoon feed you everything. They want to tell you what your opinions are.
Yeah,
I mean, I've always been a fan of show don't tell. So to me, that's always the best course of action.
It's one of my pet peeves with like a certain. It happens a lot with shonen anime, but certain anime, I know they do like to do this for clarity's sake and stuff. But when they always constantly telling the viewer what the characters are thinking and what's happening, I'm like, a lot of times they're like, okay, yeah, I already know what's going on. You don't necessarily have to tell me every play-by-play of what's happening.
Well, to an extent, it makes sense for the genre as they're going for a younger audience.
True. I guess that's true. I guess I'm coming from it from a bit of a different perspective. That's fair.
I mean, there's a reason. Yeah, there's a reason why why Dragon Ball doesn't have that great of continuity.
That's true. I guess when you're thinking in the shonen genre versus like other genres, you do kind of have that going for it. So that is a good point.
But I will also give the Japanese credit for the fact that they also don't treat their kids like idiots either.
True.
True.
That is a really good point, man. That's such a good point. Like you'll be watching these shonen shows, and yet you're like, oh wait, they're not holding any punches back. They're really trying to say something here, and they're not afraid to say it because it may be directed at a younger audience. And I like that. I think that kind of honesty is what's needed on it. You know. What would you say MacKinnon Chronicles leads closer to if we had to put it into terms of like a genre or an age range even more closely? I would say. Is this like younger teens or is this adult series?
I have to say it's an adult series, but it tries to go out for a much wider audience, much like Star Trek used to do.
Interesting. Not necessarily playing for one specific age range, perhaps.
Yeah, because when you used to watch Star Trek back in the day, it used to be something you could do with a family. But nowadays, with the new shows, you got all kinds of violence and swearing.
Do you really?
I mean, Star Trek Discovery got fined in another country for the F word.
Oh my god. That's weird. Not something I'd ever expect.
Yeah, Star Trek Picard had a scene where someone's eye got gouged out.
Yikes. Yeah, I've noticed there's a trend with TV getting more gory these days. I don't know if you've noticed that, but like every network show I see is like super gory these days.
Yeah, they want to see they see gore as an ability as showing darkness, but it's not so much dark about it being dark themes as it is body horror.
Yeah, really. Yeah, it's just totally like you can like when you look back to the older shows, you can see how they can do darkness with just the writing itself. They don't necessarily need that kind of element with the body horror.
Yeah, to an extent, I think they've gone overboard.
Yeah, it's like that Jurassic Park quote. They didn't stop to think if they should because they were too busy, wondering if they could. Essentially, is the idea.
That is very true. That is a very good, very good comment for that.
Right. But hopefully, with MacKinnon Chronicles, we can get back to that classic style.
Oh, definitely.
And I do love the idea of MacKinnon Chronicles almost being the middle ground, where you do have that kind of writing where you have those more philosophical ideas, but then you also have the big bombastic space battles that everybody loves, and of course we all want to see.
Yeah, for the most part, it goes back to what inspired Gene Roddenberry with Star Trek, and what inspired Nicholas Meyer for Star Trek II. It was the inspiration that came from Horatio Hornblower books, which are unfortunately books you can't get at Barnes & Noble anymore.
Why is that?
I think it's because of problematic themes, problematic elements, such as one of the main characters has a slave with her.
Oh wow.
Hmm.
Interesting. And so they
But
removed it from Barnes and Noble's, huh? Like they banned it.
it's more like they stopped restocking them.
Stalking it. Interesting. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a British nobleman. What do you expect?
Yeah, that's
Yes.
interesting.
You really expect someone of the British royalty to do something on their own? Forget about it.
When were the books written?
Back in the 30s, 40s, 50s.
Oh, interesting. Huh. And it was like a sci-fi series?
No, it was a historical fiction series. It took place during the Napoleonic Wars.
Oh, interesting. Huh. Oh, dang, I had no idea. That's interesting.
They turned two of the books into a movie that starred Gregory Peck.
Really?
Yep.
Huh.
Also, a fun fact.
Real quick, this is another question, kind of a little from left field, but we know that the technology is more advanced, but do they still have like robots and other stuff like that, or have they gone beyond that aspect?
There's always going to be robots to a certain extent because let's just say that manufacturing will still use them, and so on. There might be some androids out there, and we might have a better depiction of them than, say, Star Trek Picard, where they have no rights if they're able to be sentient.
That's interesting. So, yeah, I mean, have you thought about whether you're gonna have any kind of sentient robots, or is it going to be more that kind of worker robot kind of thing?
Yeah, I think there's going to be the whole sentient robot in the story. By that time, any kind of problems between the two have been worked out. The android civil rights movement is now long past.
Thankfully. We don't need to get into that whole mess.
And there's another thing that MacKinnon Chronicles will have in terms of that Star Trek doesn't have anymore, and that's consistency.
Which is probably the most important thing to have. Yeah, they just can't manage it. Now, how do you plan to have keep your consistency? Do you have any kind of story Bible or anything like that you're creating or have created?
Yeah, actually, I've gonna make the announcement right now that there is a guide for the readers that will be part of the campaign perks. It's going to be something of a small little Bible for anyone who wants to make their own stories within the MacKinnon Chronicles universe.
That's awesome, man.
Yep. And it can be read as an info book if you don't really want to make it your own stories. You just want to find out more about the technology involved, what the setting's like.
So almost like a world-setting book, a history and character guide.
Yeah, something like that.
Nice, man. Kind of all kind of multiple different things rolled into one. That's pretty cool, man. I love that idea of like being able to explore more of the world and the universe, and once you've read the comic, you're like, I want to know more, though. I'm fascinated. I want to dive into it more. This will be that chance for people, and even maybe for those who want to go take the next step there, they have that option too.
Oh yeah, I also want to build up a trust between myself and fans who are creators, because I've been noticing more and more tension about what a fan can and cannot do in terms of what they want to do for fan fiction. Such as you had that big lawsuit with Star Trek Exnar that pretty much caused CBS to limit what a fan production can do.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Jeez, I did not know anything about that.
Yeah, really.
Oh, Tim Russ, who played Tupac in Star Trek Voyager, has his own production company where he made Star Trek fan films. So I think that also played into it.
Hmm.
And it wasn't
That's
just
interesting.
yep, and it wasn't just him in doing it. It was also he's also getting involved former Star Trek actors. And just so that Dan knows, I get that reference.
I was about to say, Dan in here in the chat says, I just want to tell Matt, good luck. We're all counting on you. Is that a reference there? Is that what you meant?
Yeah, it's the airplane, and I think the perfect moment for that is right after the campaign ends.
Fair enough, yes.
Because that was a joke. Leslie Nielsen comes into the cockpit right after they land a plane.
Yeah, that would be a good timing then, wouldn't it? That's pretty good. Still, I feel like the sentiment it rings true here in this case, nonetheless.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's cool, man. I mean, it does sound like there's a lot of really cool stuff to be excited for this campaign. Do you have an idea on when you might be launching? In next month or two, or do you have an idea yet?
It'll be within the next month. I
Very
think
nice.
what's going to happen is that I'm going to launch the Indiegogo before the Kickstarter because of the whole issue that happened with Kickstarter looking over my campaign and approving it. That took about a week for them to do.
Oh wow!
A full day after they said it was going to happen.
Oh geez.
And the way they planned that was very. Probably finds it really funny that it took it as it approved me right before a 2-hour maintenance started.
Of course it did. They're like, hey, get this approval out of the way. We got to do some maintenance.
2 hours.
Terrible timing. Yeah, that's awful.
So it was also 2 hours before that too. So if I were to put out the link, I'm gonna get people who are gonna ask, "Hey, what happened? We can't get in during that whole 2 hours." So I had to wait 4 hours.
Oh wow! Sounds like you've already had some technical issues that you've had to overcome.
Kind of like the stream.
Yeah, really. Luckily, knock on wood, we won't be losing transmission here again anytime soon.
Look, it's aliens.
Yeah, very much hopefully.
Yes.
It's always the aliens.
Yeah, really. Aliens. There's actually a quote from I don't know if anyone's watching Captain Falcon and Winter Soldier, the new Disney Plus show, but there's a line about it's always aliens, robots, or wizards, the big three. I thought that was a very, very good line.
And the common thread between them used to be Tony Stark.
Very true. But it is true. It applies to many situations, I feel like. In our case, robots, in this case. Now, I'm going to pull up the Kickstarter page here. I want to show off the two different pages that we have, just so people get a sense of kind of where they can go and sign up for more information as the pre-launch pages are up and running. So first, we'll show the Kickstarter here. And so with the Kickstarter, of course, you can click on notify me on launch. And that way you'll get an email. I believe with Indiegogo, I believe it's a similar structure there. Let me go and pull that one up. And this, again, is just to make sure that you can get notified on launch and you won't miss on any of the cool perks and stuff that they have going on. And this one you put in your email address. It's a little bit different. And of course, we have a little bit of information if you want to go and read a little bit more about the story and check out the art and stuff. There's a little bit of a preview you can check out there.
The funny thing is that Kickstarter will show you how many subscribers you got for your pre-launch campaign, while Indiegogo doesn't. So all you know is that I'm lying about the 30 signups.
That's weird. I wonder. So I wonder why they don't show that. That's a bit of a discrepancy there.
I don't know, but let's be honest. I wouldn't be lying about 30 addresses. I'd be lying about 100 addresses.
True. I mean, if you're gonna lie, might as well make it 1,000. Come on. I mean, we go big or go home, man.
Okay, look. You got there's believable lie, and then there's a not believable lie. That is in the category of not believable.
Hey, man, it's all about selling it. If you can sell it well enough, anyone will buy it. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I can't argue that, except for I don't think very many people will be buying the PG-rated Predator series.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a bit of a hard sell right there. I'll have to admit. Yeah.
Hey, you never know. There may be one or two people.
Hey, new audience, right? Just trying to reach a new audience, I guess. Well, that's awesome, man. I'm super excited about your campaign. Like, I've been so stoked about MacKinnon Chronicles for a while, and I feel like it has so much potential. So I'm super excited about it. And honestly, we learned a lot today, even that me and Matt didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always cool, man. And so, what is there anything you can tease us about, this first issue or the future of MacKinnon Chronicles? Anything you want to share?
There are explosions.
How many explosions?
Oh, one or two, but they're pretty big.
Yeah, well, that's what counts, man.
But basically, I also want to show people stuff that can't be done without a big budget on a TV screen. That's the big thing that comics has when it comes to things like TV shows or movies. If you don't have a big budget, there are certain things you can't do with science fiction. And I think that's one of the reasons why they're able to do something like Stargate on a smaller budget, or that awful Flash Gordon series that was basically a Flash Gordon paint job of a Stargate series.
No, yeah. Well, as we're starting to wrap up here, I know we're getting to the end of our time here, but I did want to ask: is there anything that you wanted to tell people out there who may be considering, taking a look at your campaign once it launches and picking up some of the perks that they see there?
Well, if you want to have a science fiction space opera that's not preachy, give it a try. It's basically about two ships fighting one another, and who doesn't like that?
Yeah, really. At the end of the day, who doesn't like that, man? When it comes down to it.
Yeah, and you also got gingers in there. Who doesn't like gingers?
We've got space battles. We've got gingers. We've got explosions. What else do you need? Come on, people. I'm sold.
Guys, what you guys could probably do is, I don't know, give me $10 million and I can have Michael Bay do explosions.
We got Michael Bay on explosions, J.J. Abrams on lighting with those lens flares, and I don't know who else. We'll throw some third person in there for something else, for good measure. But
Who would be a good director for it?
Maybe Christopher Nolan on directing.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, I do think one day MacKinnon Chronicles, even who knows what will happen, but it would be really cool to see it translate to a show at some point, maybe some sort of a live action, or I feel like it's such a good story. It really would translate to multiple mediums.
Yeah, and I'm considering the idea of having one of the perks be the first script I ever wrote, which was the first screenplay ever written, so it's not going to be good. But I did it for Amazon Studios as part of their pitching.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
They were back up until about a couple of years ago, they were accepting unsolicited scripts for consideration, and they'd allow you to put up on their website for other people to read and review.
That's pretty cool.
Yep. I wish I had taken screenshots of this one review because it was great.
Really? Oh, that's cool.
It was basically, he said that Maisie was better written than the character Susan Ivanova from Babylon 5.
Oh, wow. That's pretty high praise, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was... Yeah. You have no idea how proud I was.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. That's really nice to hear. Congratulations on that, dude. And I would love to see, if you want to put that script up somewhere, on your Patreon, so I bet people would love to see that.
Yeah, I got a total of 3.5 stars.
Nice, man. And we might have to bring that script out at some point. Who knows, man? Maybe it'll get made one day after all.
It's possible.
Right?
And it was also my first attempt at a screenplay too. So hey,
nice. And now you've written several, and are writing several here. So you're well on your way, man. Well, that's awesome, man. So as we mentioned, the campaigns will be launching within the next month. So sometime in April, I believe it is when we should be expecting them. And you said that is it the Indiegogo or the Kickstarter that will be launching first?
It'll be Indiegogo first.
Indiegogo first. Okay.
Unless the Kickstarter signups I just skyrocket past the Indiegogo signups. Then it'll probably go up at the same time.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. Yeah. And as we mentioned, you can sign up for it right now. If you go to the links here, you can see it on the screen. It's also in the chat as well. And so this is the Indiegogo link. If you're more of an Indiegogo person, definitely go ahead and check that out. But there's also a Kickstarter option if you're more of a Kickstarter person. So definitely kind of have a couple different options depending on your preferred platform.
Yeah, it's basically that way. People have their preferred platform.
Yeah, I know. And I think that's a nice way to do it. Not everyone does that. And some people just have a preference. They really do want to use one or the other. So it really is nice to give them that flexibility. And for those who maybe don't have a preference, they can just be like, oh, well, I'll choose the one that, whatever, whichever works.
Yeah, I'm kind of like Tonic Mold in that I'm crazy enough to do both at the same time.
Hey, it's just crazy enough. It might work, man.
It worked for Mythics.
Hey, you never know.
Very true. I mean, if it works for Mythics, and that's the other thing. You're the writer of Mythics, and so you've had 2 successful issues crowdfunding now. So you're no beginner to crowdfunding. You've had some experience here, so people can be assured that you're going to be able to deliver a good product here.
Yep, and it didn't take a year for them to get their books.
Exactly, which is a big deal these days.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, I mean, even with it not taking a year, I mean, at least you did update people with some of the snags and everything as well, too, I bet.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. There was an update every week.
Which I think is even more important than there not being delays is the constant communication. Because when there are delays, if you're communicating that, people feel much more assured and not just be like, oh, did you forget about me? Like, people don't want to be forgotten about. They'd rather you be like, no, something came up, I didn't forget about you, but I'm going to let you know because I didn't forget about you. I do care about this. And that is super important for any crowdfunding campaign.
That is.
Yeah. So I'm sure we'll be seeing many more updates and many more appearances from you guys in the coming months and weeks here.
Even when there's nothing to be updated on, I'll update because it annoys me when I see creators update on their Twitter rather than their campaign pages.
Interesting, yeah.
Because tweets will get buried down. Updates on your page don't.
Very true. Yeah, I like to see. I like when people take advantage of both. Well, we'll put out one on the campaign page and then maybe post that to social media and say, hey, go check this out if you're a backer. You know, that's a good way to do it. Well, that's awesome. And I thank you again for taking some time to speak with us, and I'm sure we'll be talking again here as we get a little bit closer to the launch. But everyone, please check out the links to sign up, and I think there's some free digital bonus comics that you can get if we get to a certain amount of signups before. Is that right, Matt?
Well, yeah, Brett offered up Changelink if we get to 50 signups by Tuesday.
Nice. So we still got a few days left on that to get the free comic there.
Yeah, but if we get to 25 signups on Kickstarter by Tuesday, I'll do a full cover release for what you're going to see on the standard edition.
Well, that's very awesome. Nice. So there's some nice incentives even before the campaign launches. Some really cool stuff that you can get even just for signing up and getting those sign up numbers up there. So if you can, please go and sign up yourself and encourage your friends to do so as well. Get those free comics because who doesn't want some free digital comics? That's awesome. And so,
people don't like digital comics.
Well, I guess there's that, but I honestly, I'm not going to say no to something free. Yeah, that's my key word right there, man.
Oh, definitely.
Well, why don't you tell us as we're wrapping up here? Is there any way you could tell us where people can follow you online so they can make sure to check out all the stuff that you got going on?
On Twitter, you can catch me on at MacKinnon. And basically that's it. Every once in a while, we'll be streaming on the Mythoverse YouTube channel.
And what's the link for that one?
I'm getting it. I've grabbed it right now.
Perfect. What kind of streams do you guys do over there?
Oh, when we can, we do update streams on the comics as well as just general kind of stuff, reviews.
Very nice, man.
And some lore videos as well. Yep.
That sounds fun, yeah. I would encourage people to go check out that for some really awesome content as well. Give that a like and a follow. You're going to like what you see over there. And of course, most importantly, you might say, definitely don't forget to sign up for the campaigns. Again, here's the Kickstarter link. And here is one more time for the Indiegogo link. And well, thank you again, Matt. I'm super excited about this, man. It's been one that like we've been thinking about for a long time, and I know you've been working on and planning and building the world and lore. So I bet it must feel really exciting and nerve-wracking in certain ways, just to have it all kind of finally coming together and getting this campaign off the ground here and seeing what people's reactions are. I think it'll be
definitely
awesome, man. Yeah.
There is a lot that we can talk about with MacKinnon Chronicles.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, like I said, I'm sure we'll be back. What was that, man?
Oh, definitely.
Well, yeah, I'm sure you were going to mention that. I'm sure you could talk on and on about MacKinnon Chronicles all day long, and so hopefully we'll be able to have you back on once the campaign launches and people can find out even more about the book, maybe see some preview pages and other things that will be coming out here in the near future. Well, thank you again, man. I really appreciate it, Matt. It was a pleasure talking to you as always. And for everyone who listened, we appreciate you hanging out in the chat. If you're watching on the replay, we appreciate that as well. And please go check out the sign-up links. Again, if there's a few days, Tuesdays at the deadline, if they get 50 sign-ups on Indiegogo, you get the Changeling digital and then a cover reveal for 25 sign-ups on Kickstarter by Tuesday. So if we can get those numbers up, that'd be awesome, guys. So please check that out. And we will see you on a future episode of the Campaign Countdown. Good night, everyone, and thanks again. We'll see you soon. Take care.
Bye, guys.